Today we're going to make a duck to go with our rainbow project. Now the first thing we're going to do is look closely at a picture of a duck. I'm looking for simple shapes that will help me draw my duck so that it looks realistic. I see that the body is sort of a large oval and the head is somewhat of a smaller circle with sort of a triangle beak. I could also add a little triangle to the back if I want it to have a tail, and a neck connecting the head to the body, along with 2 webbed feet. So now that I know the shapes of a duck, I'm getting some yellow paper, I'm getting my pencil, and I'm going to very, very carefully draw those shapes that I saw. So I'm going to start with the body, and I'm just going to make a big oval. I want to fill up as much of that paper as I can. I want a big duck. Now up here is where I'm going to draw my smaller circle. Don't make it too small. Now in order to connect my head to my body, I'm going to draw 2 lines. Here and here. And if I want a tail, I can just connect it with a triangle like that. Now I don't need to save any room for the legs and the beak because I'm going to be making that out of orange paper later on. So right now I'm only focusing on the yellow parts. Now after I've drawn my shapes, I'm going to very carefully take my scissors and cut it out. Be very careful that you cut your shapes out in one piece. Just because there's a line right here doesn't mean that I cut on that line. Otherwise my tail would come off. I'm cutting around all my shapes using my helper hand to turn my paper while my scissor hand stays straight. Now my duck is all cut out in one piece. I don't really like it when the pencil lines show, so sometimes I like to flip my duck over so that it's just a nice yellow duck with no pencil marks. I'm going to save my yellow scraps because we're going to be using those later. Next, we're going to make the beak and the feet. Now for the beak, we noticed that it looked like a triangle, so I'm just going to draw a nice big triangle on my orange paper. Just like this. Now whenever I glue on my beak, I actually, here I'll flip this so you don't see pencil lines. I don't glue it on the top like this. You can if you want to, but I like to do a little trick. I like to put a glue dot, shake my glue down, right there, a tiny one, and then I sneak the beak behind the head. So you can choose which way you want to do it. If you want it on top of the head or behind the head. Now for the feet. Sometimes when I want 2 things that are the same shape and size, I fold my paper in half, and then I draw one of those shapes. So I'm going to put my orange paper right under the body so I can really see how big I want those feet to be. And I start by drawing a rectangle, and then I add the toes underneath. Now there's lots of ways to do it. Some people do bumpy toes. Some people do a foot that looks like an oval, but I think I'm going to do something a little bit different because I want my duck to look like he has webbed feet. So do the triangle again, and then I'm going to go like this. Kind of a bumpy line. And you don't have to do your feet like me. There are all kinds of ways that you could do your duck's feet. This way is a little trickier because you have to cut out that bumpy line. Now, since I cut my paper while it was still folded, instead of having one foot, ta-da, I have two. So now I can put a tiny glue dot on the top of each leg, and just like the beak, I'm going to glue these behind. Wow, that's really starting to look like a duck. Now for a fun part. I'm going to give everyone a wiggle eye. This is going to make our duck look very realistic. So wiggle eye is just a little plastic piece that looks like an eyeball. And you're going to need to put a medium-sized glue dot wherever you want your eye to go. And then, very carefully, without getting your fingers sticky, gonna set that eye right on top of the glue dot. Now don't pick up your duck and play with it right now, because if you shake it, that eyeball is gonna fall off because the glue is not dry yet. So while I'm waiting for the glue to dry, I'm going to add some texture to my duck because I want my duck to look like it has fluffy, soft feathers. So, using these scraps, I'm going to be a feather factory. I'm going to just tear little pieces of yellow. And when you tear the paper, it gives it a soft texture, just like a real feather would have. So that's why tearing is better than cutting for this part. So make yourself a nice pile. When you have a pile, you can start adding your feathers to your duck. I just put a little dot of glue on one side, and then I start gluing them down. This part kind of takes a while, but it looks really cool when you're done. It makes your duck look real. And I like to go in rows. Kind of after I finish one row, then I do another row that kind of overlaps it like this. Overlap means I'm going to put that one just a little bit on top of the last one that I did. And I'm going to do this row. Just moving on down. Just like so. And then I'm ready for my next row. Overlapping just a bit. When your duck's whole body is covered with feathers, he's going to have a soft, fluffy texture, just like a real duck. When you're all done, gently flip over your duck so that you don't mess up the eyeball, and write your name on the back. And then you're all finished.